What if the first human tool was not really a tool? What if it was a new kind of mind? A stone in the hand looks simple, a chipped edge, a sharp point, a piece of bone shaped into something useful. To us, it can look primitive, rough, crude, basic, almost obvious. But that view is too shallow, because a tool is more than an object. A tool is a decision that survived outside the body. It is a thought made visible. It is a piece of matter shaped by intention. And maybe the first real tool was not in the hand. It was in the mind that imagined it first. Before a stone became a blade, someone had to see a blade inside the stone. Before a bone became a needle, someone had to see more than bone. Before a branch became a spear, someone had to imagine a future moment, a moment that had not happened yet. That is where the story becomes strange, because tool making is not only about survival. It is about time. It is about memory. It is about patience. It is about the mind reaching beyond the present moment. Most people imagine ancient tools in a simple way. They picture early humans cutting meat, scraping hides, breaking bones, shaping wood, digging roots, making shelters, sewing clothing with bone needles. And yes, all of that is true. Stone and bone tools helped ancient humans survive. A sharp stone could cut. A scraper could clean a hide. A bone needle could help make clothing. A spear point could change the distance between danger and the human body. A digging stick could turn the ground into food. These things mattered. In a hard world, every useful edge mattered. Every sharp point mattered. Every object that saved time mattered. But usefulness is only the surface. If we only see the tool as useful, we miss what it did to the human mind. Because to make a tool, an ancient human had to do something extraordinary. They had to look at an ordinary object and see possibility inside it. A stone is just a stone. It sits on the ground. It has no purpose. It has no plan. It does not ask to become anything. But a human looks at it and thinks, this could be sharper. This could cut. This could scrape. This could protect me. This could help me tomorrow. That is not a small mental step. That is imagination. Not fantasy. Not daydreaming. Practical imagination. The kind of imagination that says, the world is not finished. The world can be changed, and I can be the one who changes it. A wolf uses its teeth. A bear uses its claws. A bird uses its beak. A turtle carries its shell. Most animals are born with the tools they need attached to their bodies. But humans are different. We are born unfinished. No claws, no fangs, no thick fur, no natural armor, no great speed, no powerful jaw. In the wild, the human body is strangely exposed. Soft skin, weak nails, small teeth, slow running, fragile bones. A human alone in the ancient world was not impressive, not compared to the animals around them. But humans had something else. They could borrow power from the world. They could take stone and invent a claw outside the body. They could take bone and invent a needle sharper than the finger. They could take wood, extend the arm. They could take fire and extend the sun into the night. This is one of the deepest truths about tools. A tool is an extension. It extends the hand. It extends the tooth. It extends the arm. It extends memory. It extends planning. It extends the future. And once humans learned to extend themselves, they were no longer trapped inside the limits of the body. That may be one of the most important changes in human history. Not just the moment we held tools, but the moment we began to think through tools. Because every tool asks the mind to change. A stone blade asks for precision. A bone needle asks for patience. A spear point asks for foresight. A scraper asks for repetition. A handle asks for design. A knot asks for memory. A finished tool asks for a process, and a process asks for time. This is where tool making becomes psychological. Imagine an ancient human sitting with a stone. They strike it once. The stone breaks badly. They try again. Another piece falls away. Still wrong. They adjust the angle. They remember where the last strike failed. They try with less force, then with more force. They learn the material. They learn the weight. They learn the shape. They learn what the stone will allow. This is not random hitting. This is attention. This is feedback. This is failure becoming information. And that matters, because a creature that cannot learn from failure is trapped. It repeats. It reacts. It stays close to instinct. But a tool maker must fail differently. They must fail, remember, adjust, and continue. That is the beginning of discipline. Not the modern motivational version of discipline. Something older, something quieter. The discipline of shaping matter slowly. The discipline of not getting the result immediately. The discipline of seeing a finished object before it exists. That is planning. That is time awareness. That is the mind escaping the present moment. The present moment says, I am hungry now. I am afraid now. I am cold now. I am tired now. But the tool-making mind says, I will need this later. I will prepare before the danger arrives. I will shape this now for a problem that has not happened yet. That is a revolution, because the future becomes real in the mind before it becomes real in the world. And tools are one of the first signs of that. A tool is proof that someone imagined tomorrow. Not in words, not in writing, not in philosophy, but in stone, in bone, in wood, in the shape of an edge, in the hole of a needle, in the point of a spear, in the polish of a handle. Ancient tools are not silent objects. They are evidence of minds thinking ahead, and once humans could think ahead, everything changed. They could prepare, they could store, they could teach, they could improve, they could compare. They could ask, even without words, can this be better? Can this be sharper? Can this last longer? Can this be made faster? Can this help someone else? That question, can this be better, may be one of the most human questions ever asked. It is the beginning of technology, but it is also the beginning of dissatisfaction, because once the mind sees improvement, the world is never just accepted as it is. The stone is not just stone. The branch is not just branch. The bone is not just bone. The problem is not just a problem. It becomes something to solve. This is powerful, but it also has a cost, because a mind that can improve the world can also become restless inside it. The same mental ability that shapes stone would later shape houses, weapons, cities, machines, screens, systems, and entire civilizations. The same impulse begins with a simple chip edge: make it sharper, make it stronger, make it last, make it work, make it better. That is the voice of the tool-making mind, and it still lives in us. But ancient tool-making was not only individual. Humans did not learn tools alone. A child had to watch. An adult had to demonstrate. A mistake had to be corrected. A technique had to be repeated. Someone had to remember how to strike the stone. Where is strike? How hard to strike? What kind of stone breaks well? What kind of bone can be shaped? Which tool works for which task? This is social learning, and social learning is one of the great hidden powers behind human survival. A single animal can learn something, but if that knowledge dies with the animal, it disappears. Humans did something different. They passed knowledge forward. One person learns, another washes, another copies, another improves, another teaches. Over time, knowledge becomes larger than any one person. That is culture. Culture is not only stories and rituals. Culture is also technique, a way of holding the stone, a way of sharpening the edge, a way of sewing the hide, a way of making the tool last. Every tool carries a ghost of the people who made it before. A stone blade is not only stone. It is a memory of hands. It is a memory of mistakes. It is a memory of someone washing someone else. It is stored intelligent, a memory you can hold. This is why tools are so important in human history. They allow intelligence to exist outside the brain. Before writing stored words, tools stored actions. Before books stored knowledge, tools stored technique. Before schools existed, the workshop existed. The fire circle existed. The place where one hand showed another hand what to do. A finished tool says, someone solved this problem before you. Now you do not have to begin from nothing. That is how human progress works. Not because every person starts over, but because each generation inherits shaped knowledge. A child born into a tool-making group is not born into an empty world. They are born into a world already marked by intention. There are shaped stones, worked bones, scraped hides, prepared handles, old tools, broken tools, improved tools. Each one teaches silently. Each one says, the world can be changed. And this is how we changed it. In that sense, tools made humans more human. Not because tools gave us intelligence from nowhere, but because they trained intelligence. They rewarded patience. They rewarded attention. They rewarded imitation. They rewarded planning. They rewarded careful hands. They rewarded memory. A group that made better tools could do more, cut more efficiently, prepare food better, make warmer clothing, carry resources, protect themselves, survive cold, travel farther, teach children better. And each of these advantages reinforced the tool-making mind. The hand shaped the tool shaped the task shaped the brain shaped the next tool. This loop may be one of the engines of human development. Not a single moment, not one invention, but a relationship, bind, hand, material, failure, memory, improvement, again and again, over thousands of years. This is why the phrase primitive tool can be misleading. The object may look simple, but the mental world behind it is not simple. A stone hand axe may look rough compared to modern machines, but it required judgment, symmetry, grip, purpose, material knowledge, repeated practice. It required understanding how force travels through stone. It required the maker to imagine the shape hidden inside the material. A bone needle may look small, but it suggests delicacy, fine motor control, clothing, protection from cold, preparation for seasons, maybe even social care, because clothing is not only survival, it is protection, it is labor, it is time invested in the body. It is one human preparing another human to endure the world. A scraper may look basic, but it helped transform animal hide into shelter, clothing, containers, warmth. A spear point may look like a weapon, but it is also distance. It changes the relationship between the fragile human body and danger. It says, I do not have claws, so I will place sharpness at the end of reach. This is not brute strength. This is strategy, and strategy is the mind fighting before the body has to. That is the deeper story of ancient tools. They were survival objects, but also mental objects. They changed the way humans related to the world. Before tools, the body meets the world directly. Hand against hide, teeth against meat, skin against cold, body against danger. But with tools, something appears between the human and the world. A shape object, a mediator, a small piece of intention. The world is no longer only something that happens to humans. It becomes something humans can act upon. That difference is enormous. To be human is not only to live in the world, it is to modify the world, to reshape it around needs, fears, plans, and dreams. The first stone tools are early evidence of that shift. They show the beginning of a new relationship with reality. Reality is no longer fixed. It is workable. Matter can be persuaded. Stone can be broken into sharpness. Bone can be carved into function. Wood can be shaped into reach. Hide can be turned into warmth. The outside world becomes a partner in human intention. But again, there is a cost, because the tool-making mind does not stop. Once humans learn that the world can be changed, they begin to live differently. They no longer only adapt to nature. They also adapt nature to themselves. This is the root of technology, and technology is never neutral in the deepest sense. It always changes the user. A cutting tool changes what food can be eaten. A needle changes where humans can live. A spear changes how danger is approached. A container changes what can be carried. A fire tool changes the night. Every tool opens a new behavior. Every new behavior opens a new problem. Every new problem creates demand for another tool. This is the spiral. Tools solve problems and create new worlds where new problems appear. That is still true today. The smartphone solves distance, then creates distraction. The car solves travel, then creates speed, accidents, dependence, cities built around roads. The internet solves access to information, then creates too much information. The same pattern begins long ago. A stone blade solves cutting, then humans can process more materials, then more tasks become possible, then more tools are needed. The human world becomes more complex, and the human mind grows inside that complexity. So when we look at ancient tools, we are not just looking backward. We are looking at the first chapter of a pattern we still live inside. The body is limited. The mind imagines beyond it. The hand shapes matter. The tool extends power. The new power changes behavior. The changed behavior changes the mind. Then the mind wants another tool. This loop never ended. It only became faster. Stone became bone. Bone became wood. Wood became metal. Metal became machines. Machines became computers. Computers became networks. Networks became the invisible tools we now carry in our pockets. But the principle is ancient. A smartphone and a stone blade are very different. One glows, one cuts, one connects people across the planet. One helped a person survive in a dangerous landscape. But both are answers to the same ancient human condition. The body is not enough. The hand cannot reach far enough. The memory cannot hold everything. The voice cannot travel far enough. The eye cannot see beyond the hill. The skin cannot survive every cold. The tooth cannot cut every material. So the mind creates extension. This is what humans do. We externalize ourselves. We put memory into marks, strength into machines, voice into recordings, vision into lenses, thought into writing, social life into networks. And long before all of that, we put sharpness into stone, precision into bone, reach into wood. The story begins there, with a hand holding something shaped, with a mind seeing more than what exists, with a creature refusing to remain only what biology gave it. That refusal may be one of the deepest human traits. We are the animal that says, this is not enough, and then makes something, but we should be careful. Because not enough can create civilization. They can also create endless hunger. The same tool-making mind that helped ancient humans survive can make modern humans restless, always improving, always upgrading, always replacing, always reaching, always shaping the world, and sometimes forgetting to ask what the world is shaping us into. This is why the first tools are not just historical artifacts. They are mirrors. Stone and bone were early mirrors. They showed humans what their own minds could do. They showed that weakness could be answered with imagination. They showed that time could be prepared for. They showed that knowledge could be passed down. They showed that matter could carry memory. They showed that survival was not only physical strength, it was planning, cooperation, learning, patience, the ability to see the invisible future. Maybe that is the real difference. Not that humans had tools. Some animals use tools too. But humans built worlds out of them. Humans made tools that require other tools. Humans taught tools across generations. Humans improved tools until they became systems. And eventually, humans lived inside environments made almost entirely from tool use. Homes, roads, clothing, weapons, art, medicine, books, screens, cities. Everything around us is shaped matter. The modern world is a cave full of tools, only brighter, odder, more complicated. But the ancient logic is still there. Look around any room. A chair extends rest. A light extends the day. A phone extends voice and memory. A door extends safety. A knife extends the tooth. A pen extends thought. A screen extends attention. Every object is a small agreement between human limitation and human imagination. That agreement began long before history had pages. It began when someone looked at stone and saw more than stone, when someone held bone and imagined precision, when someone shaped matter for a task that had not happened yet. That moment matters, because it shows the mind stepping outside itself. It shows intention becoming visible. It shows thought taking form. So maybe ancient humans did not just make labor tools. They made the first visible shape of thought itself. Not a philosophy written in words, not a theory, not a monument, a stone edge, a bone point, a shaped object lying in the hand, quiet, small, easy to overlook, but inside it a whole human revolution, a body that knew it was limited, a mind that refused to stop there, a hand that learned patience, a group that learned from one another, a future imagined before it arrived. And maybe that is why these ancient tools still feel powerful, not because they are complex, but because they are beginnings. They remind us that intelligence does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes intelligence looks like a person sitting in silence, striking stone, failing, trying again, washing the edge appears slowly. Sometimes the future begins as a chip falling from a rock. Sometimes the human mind reveals itself through the smallest changes in matter, a sharper edge, a smoother point, a hole in a bone, a handle tied with care, a tool placed near a fire, and from those small changes, everything else begins. The tool, the task, the teaching, the memory, the culture, the future. So when we ask how ancient humans made tools from stone and bone, we are not only asking about technique, we are asking how the human mind learned to leave traces of itself in the world. We are asking how weakness became strategy, how fear became planning, how matter became meaning, how survival became culture, and how a creature with no claws, no fangs, and no armor became the species that would eventually reshape the planet. The answer begins quietly, with stone, with bone, with hands, with memory, with someone looking at the world and thinking, not in words, maybe, but in action, this can become something else. And maybe that is still what a human being is, a creature that sees what is and imagines what could be, a creature that turns limitation into invention, a creature that turns matter into thought, a creature that is never only living in the world, but always, slowly, dangerously, beautifully, reshaping it.